Morning, everyone. This is Andrew Demers. I'm the Communications Director here at the New Hampshire Insurance Department. Welcome to our webinar on preventing winter weather damage. We'll cover what you can do proactively, and James will cover some of the things that you can do when a time comes to file a claim. I'm joined by my colleagues, Commissioner DJ Bettencourt, Deputy Commissioner Keith Nyhan, James Fox, our Director of Property and Casualty, and our Consumer Outreach Guide, AJ Kierstead. I'll turn it over now to Commissioner Bettencourt.
Well, thanks so much, Andrew. As Andrew mentioned, my name is DJ Bettencourt, and I have the pleasure of serving as the Commissioner of the New Hampshire Insurance Department. As all New Englanders can appreciate and have probably experienced at this point, winter is now upon us. And we as New Englanders pride ourselves on our toughness to endure these months of cold and snow and sleet, but we also pride ourselves on being smart and being prepared for winter. And that doesn't just mean ensuring that the boiler is working correctly or that the snowblower starts when you need it to. It's about some of those other tips that you might not ordinarily think of. And it also means ensuring that our insurance coverages are where they need to be to ensure that our property, ourselves, and our families are adequately protected. But if in the event you do have to file a claim, we want you to know how you can do that appropriately and quickly so that you can get your issue resolved as fast as possible. So before everyone goes off to get the ice skates laced up or to snap on the skis to hit the slopes, we hope that you will take some time to hear from our team of experts on how to prepare yourself best for this winter season from an insurance perspective. And so with that said, I'll turn it over to my team.
Great. Why don't I pick it up from here, Commissioner? Again, my name is Keith Nyhan, the Deputy Commissioner here at the Insurance Department. I've spent a great deal of time working in the Consumer Services Division, so I've dealt with a lot of issues pertaining to winter damage to automobiles and homeowners insurance. But as the Commissioner mentioned, we were somewhat reminded last week with our first official snowstorm that winter is upon us and quickly coming in larger volumes of snow. So let's start off quickly talking about one of those typical perils with automobiles. And as you know, it's most frequently going to be slips, collisions, and one of the most important things consumers can do is to certainly, if you're inclined to purchase snow tires, do so before the first snowfall, and obviously check your tread depth. Other things that we like to encourage, and I'd kind of be remiss if I didn't mention, is every consumer in New Hampshire, every automobile insured should really take it upon themselves to make sure that they also keep a winter survival kit in his or her automobile, things such as a blanket or a sleeping bag, extra stocking cap, warm socks, gloves, mittens, flashlight, first aid kit. Booster cables are always very important in the wintertime. We also recommend some sort of drinking water and some high caloric type protein bar. Then lastly, make sure you have your cell phone adapter or charger with you, especially in the event of a slip off the road surface, into a roadway where someone might not see the car. You have the ability to call for help. Typical damage in an automobile collision can certainly be something minor, from a minor fender bender or bumper collision, obviously to something much more significant. So we'll come back to that issue here momentarily about coverages, but I also want to touch base on what you can do to protect your home. Homeowners insurance in New Hampshire does cover many perils related to winter storms, certainly falling trees or limbs hitting homes, burst pipes, ice dams on your roofs, and certainly cracks in the foundation are all typical issues that are associated with winter damage. And I can certainly tell you from my own personal experience and advice from my plumber, the number one thing a homeowner can do to protect against burst pipes is insulating those pipes. And more importantly, when it gets really cold, turn up the heat, keep that heating system working. Don't turn it down necessarily at night when it's below zero, which gives those pipes a chance to settle and find those minor frozen spots. So turn up the heat, insulate your pipes, and certainly be prepared for whatever's to come. On that note, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, James Fox, and let him talk to you about some of the coverage issues that you should be considering. Thank you.
Thank you, Keith. I took some notes this morning to try to figure out what best to help people understand. And I think, just going back to what Keith said, Keith's going through some things you can do to hopefully avoid a claim. And I think it's important to remember that you should try to avoid a claim at all costs. And maybe you think, well, I have insurance for claims, and that's true. But if you have claims, then two things can happen that it can be negative. The first thing is the insurance company can use that as a basis to for rate and then ultimately your premium change, so it can cost you more money. And then at a certain point in time, especially for example, homeowners. I mean, today we're pretty much talking about homeowners and auto. And homeowners, they could say, based upon your claims history, we're going to non-renew you. So I think that's in super important to do all of those things, from salting walkways, so you don't have a liability claim at your home, to checking your snow tires, to, and if you think about it, in the winter now, especially since post-COVID, let's call it, a lot of companies will let you work remotely, and some people still like to go to work. But if you work remotely on snow days, say after you set a personal standard, like if it's more than 5 inches of snow, I'm going to work remotely, and then your company will let you do that. You can reduce your chances to get into an automobile accident. So all of those things, I think, you should be your first thought. Like, how do I reduce my risk? A lot of us at the insurance department are very into that. And then on the coverage issue, this time of year, I think, is just a great opportunity to actually check your coverages. So as I said, you have two, maybe three primary coverages you want to look at. The first coverage is your auto coverage. So this is a highly regulated area of insurance. So the differences between companies is fairly minimal. So you're probably not going to have the actual coverages be different. But you could look at, this is a great time to look at your deck page. So that's the page that says how much money you're going to get. So, you have a amount of coverage for physical damage, amount of coverage limit for for liability, for medical payment, and then you also have your deductibles. So, let's just say you need to go to work, so you're not able to work at home, and you go out and you slide in the snow and you hit something and you have some minimal damage. You're like, oh, that's terrible. So then you need to then go get your claim handled. First thing you should do is obviously call your insurance company to notify them of the situation, and then follow their directions. Basically, is the best way to get through that. So even if it's things you think, well, I should have to do that, just do it. And then on the back end, if you are following their instructions and they're not getting you where you need to be, then you call us at the insurance department, and then we will step in on your behalf and hopefully move things along for you, because that's a lot of times the problem is things aren't moving quickly. Although, just to be clear, most companies do a wonderful job. They do move things quickly. I don't want to sound negative. And the other thing, though, so if you're checking your coverages, I would say one of the things we do that I think, on a frontline basis that people should always do is like look at your deductible. So we always say here at the department, if you have an issue, shop your insurance. So if you look at deductible, that's one way in essence to save yourself money. So let's say you get into this little accident, say you had a deductible of 1,000. So you go get your car fixed. The fix is only like, say, $1,500, and then you're like, oh my God, I got to pay $1,000 out of that, and especially in today's inflation, out of your home budget, that can be fairly huge. So you want to like look at your $1,000 deductible, and you can do this with your agent, or you can do it online if you buy you're kind of a self person, and then you say, well, what would be the cost of my insurance if I lowered my deductible? And I think you're going to find that it's not hugely different. So you probably want to take a look at your deductibles. So that's one thing. And another thing you can also, since we're here in winter, you can also say, okay, I have, say I've done well in life, and I have a lot more stuff that I'm trying to protect, because that's one of the things insurance does. It protects your stuff. So maybe now you're in a position where you weren't, that you should have an umbrella policy. So you want to like say, oh, now an umbrella policy, for those who don't know, sits above your frontline insurance, and that your primary layer, and that will, in essence, protect you at higher levels. So that would sit over your auto and your homeowners. So those are things that I would say I would probably, if you haven't done in a while, you should really sit down with your agent and say, what do I have? Am I really protecting myself? Say, I've been doing this for a long time and I haven't really thought about it. I've been, say you're a professional who's like 45 and you're like, oh, I know my position in life has changed. Well, your insurance should change. So now in homeowners, now the reason one of the reasons we emphasize that you should protect yourself from a claim. Another reason for that is homeowners insurance is very peril based. So it's basically saying, we're the insurance company, which makes sense, says this is the risk, these perils, these things are the things that we'll take on. Like if this happens to you, we will cover it and provide you, pay your claim. But there are things outside that they're not going to take on because, they don't want to. A lot of times it's because it can happen too often and or it's just not really something that should be covered for other reasons. But so they're not going to cover those things. So it's basically, this is the amount of risk we're going to take on. So one of the reasons why you want to try to avoid a claim is you don't want your rates or your premium to go up. And you also don't want to get into one of those gray area positions where you think it is covered. The insurance company says, we don't think it's covered. And then it gets very complicated. So the first line of defense, again, is to not do that. And then let's go back to submitting the claims. So let's say on your homeowner, you have submitted several claims and they are covered. And then that company says, we're not going to renew you because you're basically you're too risky. So then where does that put you? Well, a lot of times that could put you into what's called surplus lines, and that's a different type of insurance. So we have admitted companies. That's what we're talking about here, and that's in homeowners that's highly regulated. But with in homeowners, you could end up in surplus lines. You can't auto because it's a take-all. The insurance companies have to sell to everybody. But you don't want to end up in surplus lines because we don't regulate that nearly like we do with admitted companies. We only just unfair insurance trade practices, pretty much all we regulate. So you should protect yourself from your premiums going up and also being shifted into surplus lines. So I guess what I would say is, I wrote this down, is like, call your insurance company, follow what they have to say. If you do everything they tell you to do, or if something seems completely unreasonable, call us and then we'll work on it. Now, the other little piece that Keith had mentioned prior to the starting that I will talk about is if you get into an accident where you think someone else is at fault, so then you have a choice. You can go under your own policy, so your property coverage under your auto, or B, you can go under the other person's insurance coverage for liability. So if you have physical damage coverage, so that's collision and comprehensive, on your car, I would suggest, and the department suggests, that you are better off pursuing it with your own company, and then they can then, through something called intercompany arbitration, go after the other company, and they basically work it out. And they say, well, why do you tell us that? Because it's a very simple reason that's been around forever. In the liability scenario, it's tort, and it's like it's there's much more of an adversarial process at play. I mean, torts are things that go to court more often, and people start pointing fingers at each other. So you want to do that, and you don't want to go get into that scenario. So you go into your property coverage, which is not as adversarial. It's your insurance company who's helping you. And then the only thing Keith had mentioned, he said that to me before, that, well, under your own policy, for example, you might have like 30 days rental coverage. So if you have 30 days rental coverage in your own policy, and you go into your own policy, and then the rental coverage is exhausted, the department's position is then you can still go into the person at fault's policy to continue on with that coverage. So again, a lot of what this comes back to for us, and a lot of what our laws are geared to, is making sure everybody's being fair. So if you feel you're being fair, and either your insurance company or another person's insurance company is not being fair to you, we have something here called unfair insurance trade practices. That's literally what's called unfair insurance trade practices, unfair insurance claims practices. And then we will look at it and see if the insurance company is being fair. And I will say many times they are being fair, but there are other times could be a new person that they're not being fair. So, and then we will work with them to correct that issue. That's worked very well. Keith used to be the head of that division. Now he's the deputy commissioner. But I will end with that, and I will say always emphasize that if you do have a problem, you should call our consumer services division, and they will help you work through it.
Yeah, and I'll jump right back over there, James, and segue into the fact that our consumer services number is 1-800-852-3416. We have several very experienced consumer services officers who can help you navigate the claim process and certainly give you some advice as to how to handle a claim.
Now, one thing that I'd like to mention is that we have a consumer advisory for winter weather. And in the chat right now, I'm going to post that. Oh, no, it's already in there. Great. AJ did that. So I just want to direct your attention to that. And of course, our 800 number and our consumer services email for folks that need to contact our consumer services officers. If we have any questions, by all means, please type them into the chat box and we'll be happy to have our folks answer them. In the interim, I guess, DJ, do you have any additional thoughts? Oh, you're muted, DJ.
You would think by now I'd have this down pat. Unfortunately not. So thank you, Andrew. So first and foremost, thank you to Keith and James for that insight. I think that was very, very helpful. You know, what I hope this presentation has helped you to appreciate is that a little preparation, taking some personal responsibility for ourselves, not only ensures our safety, but it can also save us some money. And being frugal is obviously another trait that we pride ourselves on here in New Hampshire. Beyond what you've heard today, I will share once again a frequent tip that I stress, which is please, please, please take some time to read your current insurance policies and ask yourself some key questions. First, what coverages do you have? For how much? And then ultimately, if the need should arise, how do you file a claim? I think those are some key questions that if you get the answers to those in the beginning, it's going to save you a lot of stress later should you need to access your coverage for whatever reason. So that being said, to stress what Keith just mentioned, we understand that insurance is complicated. We understand that no single webinar can cover every topic or answer every question. So if you need help, if you need assistance, if you need the answer to a question, do not hesitate to call our Consumer Services Division. They are a great team and they are happy to help you.
Well, I'm not seeing any questions. I just want to remind everyone that we're here to help. You know, the Consumer Services Division here, you know, as Keith likes to say, educate, navigate, and investigate. We can help you with all of those things, whether it's just, you know, educating you about your policy or how some of these procedures work. We can help you navigate how to file a claim or the claims process. And we can investigate, as James mentioned, you know, whether or not you have been treated or are being treated fairly. So don't hesitate to give us a call, even if it's with what you might think is a silly question. There's no silly questions here, and we have a whole team of folks standing by to help you. So please don't hesitate to engage with us. We appreciate that very much. And as always, if you have any questions, you can reach us at communications@ins.nh.gov, and we will be able to forward those questions or inquiries to the proper subject matter. Oh, see, someone's typing a question, so we'll give a quick second. Nice presentation. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. And if anyone has any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us offline. We appreciate you, and we'll see you next month.
Thank you,
Be
everybody.
well.